I used to be the guy who was constantly frustrated by Capcom's boneheaded handling of Mega Man. Between the unnecessarily long breaks and some heartbreaking cancellations, it often felt like nobody knew what to do with the Blue Bomber. But a few years ago, I had an epiphany that I want to share with you right now. The best Mega Man games aren't coming from Capcom. The secret is that indie developers who grew up loving those old 8 and 16-bit games are the true heroes keeping the spirit alive. A perfect example of that is 20XX, an insanely addictive new game that combines the familiar fun of Mega Man X with the random thrills of Rogue Legacy. If you're a fan of platforming action, then you need to get this game. Already a big hit on PC, 20XX is finally making its debut on the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Switch. You play as either a blue-armored girl named Nina, or as Ace, who is decked out in red. One has an arm blaster, the other wields an energy sword. The idea is to fight through around a dozen stages in an attempt to defeat all the bosses and stamp down the deadly robotic uprising. What sets this game apart from all those Mega Man X sequels is that the levels are randomly generated, so you'll never have the same experience twice. You can pick between stages, similar to what Capcom was doing back in the day, but this time around the levels and boss fights get noticeably more difficult as they go along. The stages will generate tougher enemies, harder obstacles, and more relentless bosses depending on if you play them first or eighth. It ends up being more about mastering the gameplay than memorizing the stages, which is part of the reason why I can't seem to put it down. Now, beyond the usual shooting and platforming, our heroes are able to dash left and right. You can also incorporate this into your jumps, which becomes vital when dealing with some of the more difficult platforming puzzles. That's true of the wall jump as well, which is yet another element that seems to be lifted directly from Mega Man X. So much of this game depends on your ability to navigate walls and dash by enemy fire to complete the stage. Best of all, the gameplay is tight and precise, the two things I look for in this type of game. The power-ups and hidden items also end up playing a big role in 20XX. It's not just in the weapons you pick up from the boss fights, but also the things you can pick up along the way. The stages are filled with alternate paths and out-of-the-way treasures that can have a lasting impact on your run. You'll grow stronger, increase your health, jump higher, and so much more. But be careful, because this is the kind of game where if you die, you'll get stripped of all your upgrades and have to start all the way over at the very beginning. Now, if the comments I get are any indication, this approach is not universally loved. But I implore you to stick with me here, because I feel like 20XX may be the game that wins you over. For starters, the game does a good job of making each run feel important. You'll pick up a bunch of soul chips along the way, which you can turn around and use to shop between runs. This allows you to unlock permanent upgrades and items that can be placed in the stages. Instead of being angry when I died halfway through the game, I was excited to spend the chips on new upgrades. It also helps that the runs are generally pretty quick, clocking in at around an hour. In a lot of ways, this evokes the spirit of those classic games, including the length. I think that's what ultimately kept me coming back for more. I always had time to fight through a few more stages and unlock more stuff. And while I was doing that, I was getting better at managing the platforming, dodging the fire, and fighting the memorable bosses. It's the kind of game where you know where you're going, but you're not always sure how you're going to get there. On the other hand, I found myself wishing the game was a little less familiar. There's no question that this game is derivative, to the point where it sometimes feels like a ripoff. I do think the game ends up feeling like its own property, but it would have been nice to see a few more original ideas. You'll also see all the backgrounds and bosses repeated in each playthrough, which can get a little old after a while. While there's more than enough content here, it would have been nice to see a little more variety. Beyond those minor nitpicks, 20XX is an absolute blast. There's no reason to wait for Capcom to finally get their act together when games like 20XX exist. Fans of the Mega Man X series will find a lot to like about this love letter to the classic franchise, and new players will get a kick out of the explosive action. It's the kind of game I couldn't put down, thanks in large part to the procedurally generated stages and random items. Capcom could learn a thing or two from playing 20XX. Hey, thanks for watching our review. So here's the question of the day. What's your favorite Mega Man game? I know everybody loves Mega Man 2, but I think I'd go with Mega Man 3. I also love some of those Mega Man X games, though not the bad ones. With so many to choose from, I can't wait to see your picks. In other news, I'm currently hard at work on a bunch of reviews, including 1917 and Trago. We'll also be uploading Electronic Gaming Monthly's best reviewed games of 1997 on Wednesday, so I recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then,